Welcome back. The U.S. and the entire Middle East are on edge after two senior militant leaders, both backed by Iran and part of its so-called axis of resistance, were killed in the span of 24 hours, raising alarm bells of a widening war in the Middle East. Early this morning, Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, was killed while in Tehran, according to statements from Iran and Hamas. Both are blaming Israel for the attack and vowing retaliation. Israel has yet to comment on the strike, but in a televised address, a defiant Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel has dealt a, quote, crushing blow to Iranian proxy groups while warning of challenging days ahead. And he's saying Israel is prepared for any scenario. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said today that the U.S. was not aware of or involved in Haniyeh's death. The Hamas leader was also a key player in the ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas, and his death could significantly complicate or derail negotiations to stop the fighting and ensure the release of any remaining hostages in Gaza. The White House spoke to reporters this afternoon, addressing concerns of a spiraling conflict in the region.
These reports over the last 48 hours certainly don't help with the temperature going down. I'm not going to be Pollyannish about it. We're obviously concerned about escalation. There's no signs that an escalation is imminent, but I also said that we watch it very, very closely.
Joining me now is Raf Sanchez in Tel Aviv, and Courtney Kube is at the Pentagon. Raf, I want to start with you. What more do we know about the strike that took out Haniyeh, and what does this mean for Hamas's leadership amid the war?
Well, Gabe, as you said, Israeli officials from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on down are simply refusing to give any detail about this strike, not saying whether Israel was responsible, not denying whether Israel was responsible. Now, that is in line with Israeli policy. They often say nothing about these high-stake covert operations that take place overseas. So a lot of what we know is coming from Iranian state media. They say 1:45 a.m. Tehran time, an Israeli missile hit the residence of Ismail Haniyeh, the political chief of Hamas, killing him, killing one of his bodyguards, just a couple of hours after he was meeting with Iran's supreme leader, another avowed enemy of Israel. In terms of Hamas's leadership, Israel said in the days after October 7th that it would hunt down the top leaders of Hamas. They have killed Ismail Haniyeh, the political chief. They have killed his deputy. They appear to have killed the head of Hamas's military wing, Mohammed Deif, in a strike in Gaza earlier this month. And so that basically leaves Yahya Sinwar, the Gaza chief, the mastermind of the October 7th attack, who is still at large. He is believed to be in the tunnels underneath Gaza. And it is worth saying, Gabe, that while Haniyeh was one of the chief negotiators, the U.S. and Israel have consistently said that it is Sinwar who is the key decision maker for Hamas right now.
And Raf, as we mentioned, this of course puts those ceasefire talks in jeopardy. How are the people in Israel, inside Israel, and in particularly hostage families, how are they reacting to all this?
So, Gabe, we spoke earlier to the grandson of one of the oldest hostages still being held in Gaza, 84-year-old Oded Lifshitz. He has been held hostage for 299 days now. His grandson told us that he is deeply, deeply concerned that that killing in Iran could derail these hostage negotiations. He says he is appealing to the United States, to Qatar, to Egypt, to try to keep these negotiations on track. I think the brutal reality here is it is going to be very difficult for Israel and Hamas to indirectly re-engage in negotiations given the scale of the loss on the Hamas side. And we heard from the Prime Minister of Qatar, who's been the key mediator in these talks, basically throwing up his hands in frustration and saying, how are we expected to mediate when one side of the negotiating table is killing the other? Gabe.
Raf Sanchez, live for us in Tel Aviv. Raf, thank you. I want to turn now to Courtney Kube. And Courtney, what are you hearing from officials in the Pentagon about these latest strikes in both Beirut and Tehran? The White House has been saying that, it believes that a wider war is avoidable. Are Pentagon officials saying the same thing?
They are, actually. I mean, we're getting a pretty consistent message. So on the strike in Beirut, officials are a little bit more open about the fact that they were aware of this. They saw it as a direct retaliation for the attack in Golan Heights over the weekend that killed a dozen children. The strike, however, or whatever it was that ended up killing Haniyeh in Tehran, we aren't getting a whole lot of detail. I know that Raf mentioned what Hamas and what Iran are saying happened there, but U.S. officials here cannot actually tell us exactly how they believe he was killed. They really don't have that level of detail. But on the idea of a larger escalation based off of this, the concern here is based off of the idea that if you look at now who may be interested in going after Israel in the coming days and weeks, they could be attacked from all fronts, with the exception of the Mediterranean. So from Lebanon, from Hezbollah, from the north, they could take strikes from Iran coming from the east, going west towards Israel, and they could even take strikes from the Houthis from the south down in Yemen and from the Red Sea area. So the concern here is that this, as opposed to what happened in April, this could be a larger attack. Now, in addition to that, or a larger retaliation or response, in addition to that, there is the very real concern that the fact that this strike occurred inside Tehran against a leader, a political leader of Hamas, could be a major point of embarrassment for Iran. And for that reason, whatever the retaliation is, it could be more escalatory. Now, of course, here in the Pentagon, U.S. officials and frankly, throughout Washington, D.C., officials within the Biden administration are urging calm and hoping that this doesn't escalate. But there's a very real possibility here, Gabe.
And Courtney, look, nothing happens in a vacuum. We're obviously in an election year. And if Vice President Harris were to win in November, there's still a lot we don't know about her as a commander-in-chief. So I know you've been doing some reporting on this. Take us inside that reporting. What are national security officials saying about her foreign policy chops?
So it's been a very long project that we spoke to about 36 officials who either work with her currently or have worked with her in the past in the national security and foreign policy space. And the reality, it's very difficult to distinguish or discern any foreign policy or national security policy that Vice President Kamala Harris has that's different than President Biden's. Now, her detractors would say, well, that's evidence that she doesn't have a policy at all. Her supporters would say, look, she's the vice president. Her role is to support the commander-in-chief, and that may be what she's been doing for these past 3+ years now. We have asked, though, about any potential differences. There is some belief that she may show a little bit more empathy when it comes to things like Gaza, humanitarian concerns, specifically with women and children. But when you look at her public comments, Gabe, that's simply not really reflected. Her tone and her emphasis is a little bit different, but the overall policy and message really tracks with President Biden. Now, we've also been able to learn a little bit more about how she sort of acts in some of these meetings. Everything from the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the beginning of the war in Ukraine, October 7th, the many national security issues that have come up since then. And we have heard that she really behaves sort of like a prosecutor. She asks pointed and directed questions. But again, they all tend to ultimately fall in the same policy as President Biden, Gabe.
Courtney Kube, live for us at the Pentagon. Courtney, thank you for your reporting. And let me now bring in Bilal Saab, former senior advisor at the Defense Department for the Middle East region. He's currently the head of U.S. Middle East practice at Trends Research and Advisory. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, put together, what do these developments mean for the region? Are the prospects of a regional war greater today than in the past 9 months?
It's a pleasure to be with you. Look, I think the past few weeks, months even, all point to a really striking paradox in the region, which is that we're inching closer to an all-out war between Israel and what we call the Iran-led axis, even though I still believe that it is an unlikely war because neither side wants it. So the million-dollar question is, why would Israel conduct such attacks which cannot be viewed but provocative and inflaming the situation? Largely because the Israelis believe that the Iranians are largely deterred from launching an all-out war against them, same way as the Iranians believe that the Israelis are deterred from launching an all-out war against them. So it's a very tricky balance. Obviously, there's all sorts of room for miscalculation and accidents, which you saw lately with the attack by Hezbollah in Majd al-Shams. It's a tit for tat that continues. We're edging closer to a war, but I still, in my mind at least, believe that such an all-out war is unlikely because neither side wants it.
Are you at all surprised that Israel may have taken out, they haven't confirmed, that Israel would take out Hamas's political leader at the same time that these ceasefire negotiations are underway? Doesn't that undermine, does that make any sense?
Well, on the one hand, it doesn't, frankly, because, if your goal, frankly, it all goes back to what the goal of the Israelis is. I think they've made it very clear that their goal is total victory, no matter how we define it. And total victory means you decapitate the leadership of Hamas, you go after its military capacity, do everything you can to crush the organization. You heard Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying that this was a crushing blow. I beg to differ. I don't think it really hurts Hamas as much because Ismail Haniyeh really doesn't call the shots in Gaza. You know that it's Yahya Sinwar who's calling the shots. Right. This was a guy who was actually involved in the negotiations with the Israelis through the Qatari process. So, at the end of the day, you have to decide what is your ultimate objective here. Is it to really reach a ceasefire or is it to decimate Hamas? You can't do both at the same time.
To that point, though, what you were just describing, with Haniyeh dead, do we know who would fill that leadership position? Who would be the next senior negotiator? Or does it really matter if you mention Sinwar is calling the shots?
No, not really. I don't think it matters. I'm sure they will find someone else to replace him, a political, negotiator, whether he's based in outside of Gaza or in Gaza. It doesn't matter. The guy who really has influence over this entire process is Yahya Sinwar. He seems to have sort of mellowed a little bit in terms of the maximalist demands that he had before. But now with this kind of attack, I mean, just the logical assumption is that this is going to significantly disrupt and delay the negotiations.
So do these strikes in Beirut and Tehran change the administration's calculus or strategy when it comes to the Middle East? Does the focus become less on Gaza now and more on Iran?
Well, possibly. But look, at the end of the day, and this is my personal point of view, you had an Israeli prime minister who is responsible for all these reckless policies, frankly, in the Middle East right now, not lowering the temperature, not going for a ceasefire, all of those things for narrow political reasons. He came to Washington and had a standing ovation. So we're actually not doing really a service to our own foreign policy and our own objectives in the Middle East right now. We have yet to communicate some pretty significant and clear red lines to the Israeli prime minister in terms of the limits of our support for any continuation of the attacks that he's waging. So, yes, are we going to shift our, attention to preventing a large-scale confrontation? Yes, that's exactly what we did several weeks ago, if you recall, when the Iranians and the Israelis engaged in a tit-for-tat. But, you heard Secretary Blinken. We're still going to be focused on trying to achieve a ceasefire, except that with these two latest attacks, I mean, we're far away from that process.
Certainly. Bilal Saab, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your expertise.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.